Sometimes words on television can touch millions, inspiring or shocking us. In an age where information travels at the speed of light, a single sentence uttered on live TV can ripple across the globe in seconds. Television has always been a powerful medium, shaping public opinion and reflecting the values of our society. But every so often, a moment comes along that does more than just inform or entertain. It forces us to pause, reflect, and reconsider what we believe. Recently, a moment on a popular news show sparked a national conversation about valuing human life, especially those struggling with homelessness and mental health. As millions tuned in, the words spoken on air resonated far beyond the studio walls, reaching living rooms, workplaces, and public spaces across the country. The broadcast became a catalyst for debate, prompting viewers to question how we treat the most vulnerable among us and what it truly means to show compassion in a modern society. On Fox and Friends, a startling comment by host Brian Kilmeade about dealing with homeless individuals with mental health issues ignited widespread criticism. His words, delivered in a matter-of-fact tone, were met with immediate backlash from viewers, advocacy groups, and fellow journalists. The segment quickly went viral, with clips circulating on social media and sparking heated discussions about the responsibilities of those who speak to millions every day. It was a reminder that the language we use, especially on such influential platforms, can either perpetuate harmful stereotypes or challenge us to do better. This incident reminds us of the responsibility that comes with platforms, urging empathy over division. When public figures speak, their words can either build bridges or deepen divides. The conversation that followed Kilmeade's comment was not just about one person's opinion, but about the collective values we hold as a society. It challenged viewers to think critically about how we address complex issues like homelessness and mental health, and whether we are doing enough to support those in need. The backlash highlighted the power of kindness and the importance of standing up for dignity. Across the country, people responded with calls for greater understanding and compassion, organizing rallies, writing op-eds, and sharing personal stories. The moment became a rallying cry for those who believe that every individual deserves respect, regardless of their circumstances. It showed that, even in moments of controversy, there is an opportunity to come together and advocate for positive change. This essay explores the comment's impact and the need for respectful treatment of all individuals. We'll look at how a single moment on television can spark a movement and why it's so important to approach difficult topics with sensitivity and care. By examining the reactions and the conversations that followed, we can better understand the power of media to influence hearts and minds and the responsibility that comes with it. It's a difficult conversation, but it's one we must have. Only by facing these challenges head-on can we hope to create a more compassionate and inclusive society where every voice is heard and every life is valued. To truly understand the significance of this moment, we need to look closely at what unfolded on live television that morning. The conversation on Fox and Friends was not just another news segment. It became a flashpoint in a much larger national debate about crime, mental health, and public safety. The tone was urgent, the stakes felt high, and the words spoken would soon ripple far beyond the studio walls. On September 10, 2025, millions of viewers tuned in to Fox and Friends, expecting the usual blend of news, commentary, and morning banter. But what they witnessed was a conversation that quickly turned intense and deeply polarizing. Hosts Brian Kilmeade, Ainsley Earhardt, and Lawrence Jones took on the topic of rising crime rates and public safety concerns, zeroing in on a recent tragic incident involving a mentally ill homeless individual. Their discussion reflected a growing sense of frustration and fear that many Americans were feeling at the time. Lawrence Jones, in particular, was adamant that the problem wasn't a lack of resources or compassion, but rather that some individuals simply refused the help offered to them. He argued that society needed to take a tougher stance, suggesting that a more forceful approach was necessary to address the crisis. Jones went so far as to propose an ultimatum. Those in need must either accept the assistance provided or face incarceration. This stark choice, he claimed, was the only way to restore order and protect the public. The conversation quickly shifted to a broader critique of what the hosts described as overly lenient policies. They argued that current approaches were failing and called for a dramatic shift in how cities and states handle homelessness and mental illness. In the midst of this charged debate, Brian Kilmeade made a comment that would soon go viral. His words, suggesting an extreme and controversial solution, sent shockwaves through the studio and across social media. Kilmeade's chilling suggestion stood in stark contrast to the typical lighthearted tone of morning television. The gravity of his words left both the studio audience and viewers at home momentarily speechless, struggling to process what they had just heard. Yet, despite the shock, the conversation moved on without any real challenge or pushback from the other hosts. The segment continued as if nothing out of the ordinary had happened, leaving viewers to grapple with the implications of what had just been said, and raising urgent questions about the role of media in shaping public opinion and policy. Major debates often start with a powerful story, and this was no different. The Fox and Friends conversation reacted to a heartbreaking crime involving Iryna Zarutska, a Ukrainian refugee fatally stabbed in North Carolina. The suspect had a troubled history, linking the tragedy to mental illness and systemic failures. The story highlighted the consequences of inadequate mental health care and became a political talking point. It framed a personal tragedy as a symptom of societal breakdown, fueling debate over compassion versus forceful solutions. The debate often lost sight of the human stories, focusing instead on fear and blame. A key part of the Fox and Friends conversation was about choice. Lawrence Jones argued that the problem was not a lack of resources, but individuals refusing help. He suggested forced intervention, proposing treatment or jail as the only options. This controversial view raises ethical questions about autonomy and human rights. Critics argue that forced treatment can be traumatic and ineffective if the person isn't ready. The debate oversimplifies why someone might refuse help, ignoring complex barriers. Understanding these barriers is crucial to building trust and offering meaningful assistance. Simply forcing a choice ignores the complex human reality and risks doing more harm. The Fox and Friends debate, which had started as a routine discussion on homelessness, took a dark and unexpected turn that left viewers stunned and unsettled. In the midst of heated exchanges, Brian Kilmeade, one of the show's most recognizable hosts, suddenly suggested an extreme and deeply troubling solution to the issue at hand. Without hesitation, he proposed the use of involuntary lethal injection for those who refused help, a statement that sent shockwaves through the studio and, soon after, the nation. This chilling suggestion was not just a callous oversimplification of a complex social crisis. It was a dehumanizing and dangerous idea that disregarded the dignity and worth of countless vulnerable individuals. Kilmeade's comment implied that certain lives, particularly those struggling on the margins of society, simply weren't worth living, a notion that has historically led to some of humanity's darkest chapters. In that moment, a line was crossed, a line that, once breached, can be difficult, if not impossible, to return from. What was perhaps even more disturbing than the suggestion itself was the reaction, or rather the lack of reaction, from his co-hosts. As the words hung in the air, the studio fell into a heavy, uncomfortable silence. None of the other hosts spoke up to challenge or condemn the idea. Their silence, whether out of shock, agreement, or fear of confrontation, created an impression of passive acceptance that was impossible to ignore. The moment was captured on video and quickly spread across social media platforms, igniting a firestorm of outrage. Viewers across the country watched in disbelief as the clip went viral, sparking horror and fierce criticism, not just of Kilmeade's words, but of the host's collective silence in the face of such a dangerous proposal. The very idea of mass murder being floated as a policy solution on national television was, for many, simply beyond comprehension. It struck a nerve, reminding people of the importance of standing up against hate and cruelty, no matter the platform. For countless viewers, the silence of the co-hosts was not just uncomfortable, it was seen as a form of complicity, a tacit endorsement that helped normalize rhetoric that should never be normalized. In the days that followed, critics argued that failing to immediately challenge such dangerous ideas on mainstream platforms only emboldens those who seek to spread them further. The moment became a powerful reminder of how quickly dangerous rhetoric can take root when it goes unchallenged, especially when broadcast to millions. It also highlighted the immense responsibility that comes with having a platform and the real-world consequences that can follow when that responsibility is ignored. In the end, this shocking episode became a stark example of the power of words to harm and the urgent need for accountability in public discourse. The fallout from Kilmeade's comment was swift and widespread. The video clip spread online, prompting condemnation from all corners of the country. People were appalled that a public figure could suggest killing vulnerable people. Calls for Kilmeade's firing and a formal apology from Fox News grew. Public figures and elected officials joined the outcry, emphasizing the comment's inhumanity. The collective response sent a clear message: such language is unacceptable. It has no place in public discourse, especially from those with a platform reaching millions. As of that weekend, Kilmeade had remained silent, offering no apology amid the backlash. Words have real power, shaping perceptions and influencing actions. Kilmeade's comment was a dangerous act of dehumanization, suggesting certain lives aren't worth living. Dehumanization makes it easier to justify mistreatment and harm. Such rhetoric can normalize violence and discourage people from seeking help. The silence of the other hosts allowed the comment to stand unchallenged, signaling acceptance. In healthy discourse, we must push back against hate and dehumanization. Words are seeds, and planting seeds of cruelty leads to a harvest of suffering. We must choose empathy and compassion in our words and actions. To address homelessness, we must understand its complexity. It's often the result of job loss, lack of affordable housing, and health crises. Mental illness and homelessness are deeply connected, creating a vicious cycle. The stress of homelessness worsens mental health, making recovery difficult. Our mental health care system is often inadequate, leaving many without support. The argument that people refuse help is misleading. The right kind of help is often unavailable. True solutions require meeting people where they are, with kindness and respect. After the outrage, we face a choice: force or compassion. The public reaction shows a preference for compassion, understanding, and respect. We must change how we talk about homelessness and mental illness, rejecting dehumanizing language. Our words can create a culture of empathy, the first step toward real solutions. We must advocate for policies reflecting compassion, investing in housing and mental health care. These solutions honor our shared humanity and reflect our character as a nation. We can choose to be a society that opens its heart, believing in second chances. Let us choose the path of kindness.